want you to know that I'm happy for you. I wish nothing but the best for you both.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sonic Collective's review of Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. There's three of us together today. Myself, Scott Coates, recording in Hanoi, Vietnam, and with me are...
Scott Gregory, sitting here in Calgary.
And Darren Scott, here in Calgary as well.
All right, so boys, the person that picked this is not even here, but what did you think of Alan's pick?
Scott?
I mean, I liked it. It's Canadian, so I have a soft spot for it. It is a female pick, so I have a soft spot for the female artists. And yeah, I mean, I could get into the details if you want. Some of my favorite songs from growing up are on here. One thing that really struck me was, and I think I mentioned this to Darren earlier, Head Over Feet. For some reason, I was really vibing. You know how before with Chantal off the Blue album, the big song there, Before You?
Yeah.
That's kind of like that. You know, she's talking about how she really is happy to be in a relationship because the guy makes her feel like a better person, blah, 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 kind of, you know. And I kind of got that vibe off of Head Over Feet as well, too. And I don't know why, but that really resonates with me, the idea that you can make people a better person. It's kind of a lyrical kind of thing off the album, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, for this album, and it's funny, being a bit older, why do I keep bringing that up every time?
I know, right?
I'm like the old guy. I just like, but I vividly remember these. Whereas a lot of the picks in the early 90s, for Alan, it's interesting, he's not here, son of a bitch, but he picked this, and he would have been quite young, so it'd be interesting to get his take. And I even asked my wife tonight, who's 8 years younger than me, and I'm like, what do you remember about Alanis Morissette? But then I realized didn't really give a big crap about music as much as I do. But one thing I realized, this is 1995 when it came out, and you know, grunge was kind of Kurt Cobain is gone. Grunge is kind of shifting now a little bit, and you're starting to get this different sound. But really, what I found was it was interesting because this is the first time, think about this, that you heard a pop song, because it really became kind of pop, although we shouldn't call it that. It's definitely a rock album. But it was played on mainstream radio. But like, Alanis was mad. And I mean, there's some lyrics in there that they had to beep out. And like, at the time, there wasn't like, think of like, especially women in rock or things like that. They weren't saying anything you had to beep out, or they weren't like cursing like how bad guys were. Yeah, at the same time, really, the Riot Grrrl movement was happening. Started in the late 80s, early 90s, where it was like Bikini Kill, Sleater Kinney. A newer band that does that is Pussy Riot. But
Pussy Riot, I love it.
Yeah. Oh, they're awesome. Russian, and they're against the system. But they were very upfront, and they were punk, very underground punk, never really reached mainstream popularity. But here, Alanis kind of took that edge and then shifted it into something more consumable, I guess, even though it was on the edge. So, I don't know. I have a lot of respect for this album in that way, and a lot of people don't remember that. And, like, every girl I knew, especially, like, I was in my 20s, 25 at this time, I guess, and I remember every girl around that time was like, hell yeah, like, screw my ex-boyfriend. I hate this. Like, women especially gravitated. We don't have women on our group, but we probably should for this very thing. Anyway, Scott Coates, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Darren, because I looked at the release date of 95, and Nevermind from Nirvana came out in 91. So, yeah, I kind of think this is the woman's and mainstream sort of alternative. It's a bit rough, a bit angry, but sort of commercially safe at the same time. But I agree with you, it wasn't really common for women to be in music like standing up and saying, screw him, and this guy's an asshole, and so forth. So I really kind of view it as sort of a woman and slightly more mainstream alternative. So when you look back at what was going on in the musical scene, it does kind of make sense that this came out at that time. I was very early 20s, I think, and DJing at a bar. So I remember this being huge. You Ought to Know, of course, was the one I think that we all knew first. But Ironic, it turns out, was the biggest hit. I mean, there was 6 singles on this thing.
Yeah,
Right?
that shocked me too.
Yeah, 6 singles. Sold 33 million copies, one of the biggest. They call it a debut album, but it was our third, so I don't know how to qualify that. But I mean, this was a rare instance of a Canadian completely dominating the global airwaves. So listening to it, I mean, I didn't own the album, and I liked the singles enough. I don't think when it came out I was like a super fan. I was like, oh, these are catchy. I think it was one of those albums, and the singles were singles that a vast, vast majority of people could listen to and enjoy. And so I was probably in that category. I'm like, yeah, this is all right. You Ought to Know, I remember, always just maybe scared me a bit more than anything, because I was single and dating numerous women at the time, and you'd hear that song and be like, wow, this is a bruised and jaded angry woman. So,
start playing Black Velvet and get back, you know.
She's going to stalk me.
But you know what? It stands up. Like, the album's, now, 23 years old? And it still sounds good.
You could release it today.
Could have been released yesterday. I don't think it sounds dated. But then again, when you put it in the context of what was happening musically, it kind of makes sense a few years after, Pearl Jam 10 and Nevermind and all that.
I'm surprised they considered it a debut album, though, because, like you said, like the first album she did went like gold or platinum or something, I remember. The second one flopped, but, she had a professional contract. She sold a whole schwack of albums. It wasn't like bootlegs on the streets of Toronto kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if that's like first USA album or something.
Must be, yeah.
And hey, I may have called him a son of a bitch earlier, but Alan Dupuis has joined us. Alan, are you there?
Alan?
Yes, hey guys, sorry about that.
What's going on?
I was not paying attention to the time.
This is not the Marines. We will leave a man behind.
That is okay, and I feel bad because it's my pick too. And go ahead and call me a son of a bitch. I was not paying attention.
You were karaoke in a Backstreet Boys song, weren't you?
I got caught up watching Netflix. So that's my bad. I don't know how deep you guys are into this review, but
we just heard it. So Alan, why don't we go back and why don't you tell us why you picked it and what you remember of this album?
Definitely. My first memory of this album. Do you guys remember mixtapes? That was a thing. Back in the 90s. And one of my buddies from school made me a mixtape which had I think like 3 or 4 tracks from Jagged Little Pill, and I remember those being my favorite tracks on the entire tape. So I convinced him to just loan me his copy of Jagged Little Pill, and I probably wore a hole into it. So that was my first memory of that. I think it probably would have been in like 96. And it was memorable for me back then because, I was young and impressionable and kind of just getting a sense of my own musical taste. But then, life happens, time goes on, and you sort of forget all of these albums you listen to that kind of had a big impact on you growing up. So for me, this was one of them. And the Sonic Collective gave me a really good opportunity to kind of dive back into that. So that's kind of why I picked it. I also thought we don't have enough female representation, I think, in our picks.
We have a few in there, but yeah.
What did you guys think of it?
Well, and there was a chunk of the songs. It's funny because we were mentioning how there's 6 singles on it, but I had mentioned that Head Over Feet was one of my favorite, but Perfect, where she really works the softer range of her voice, and not like in long drawn-out notes or anything like that. I really like that. I really think that the other ones, the singles, really kind of fit with that grungy kind of streak that was going on in music you guys had mentioned before. But she's got chops, like it's surprising the range that she can really hold down.
Definitely.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Scott. Coach.
Yeah, Scott Greggy. I mean, it's funny. I like her voice. But part of it for me, I feel like sometimes she's out of tune. But I know that's just her style. But then, on Perfect, for me, that was like a cat being swung by its tail. Like, it just sounds out of tune and really abrasive to me. I'd listen to that, and I did skip it a couple times. Then I go back and I got to listen to the whole thing. But she is a good singer, but then on some parts, and it's just her style, I'd be like, oh, this is just kind of off.
And it's like, why would you do that?
Attribute that to the age of the album, or like the lack of auto-tune there, the technology, or do you think it's because she recorded this at 19?
Yeah, I think it was intentional. I think, you didn't hear it, but I think like bands like Bikini Kill, there was a lot of like this kind of punk going on. I think she was trying to be a little edgy like that. So I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and realizing, and Scott Gregory alluded to it, that she had a couple albums before it, but they were like Tiffany, I Think I'm Alone Now.
Oh, yeah. Always too hot, never too cold. Yeah.
So she literally left Canada, moved to LA, and said, okay, I'm getting into this mall pop stuff. And I should remember the producer's name, but I don't. But she sat down with this guy she met in LA, and they basically wrote the songs together, and he's like, this is the edge you need. And she just went along, and they did it. Kudos. Taylor Hawkins.
Glenn Ballard.
I was going to say that. Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters was actually the drummer on this album, was he not?
Well, Dave Navarro and Flea wrote one of the songs as well, too, didn't he? Or didn't they?
You ought to know.
Yeah.
They kind of...
I should know.
Yeah. And she had some... a big thing for us is like how influential it is. And I guess Pink, Katy Perry, Avril Lavigne, and many more said this was the album that made me want to kind of be this, rock star. Maybe Katy Perry didn't go too rock. But either way, it's cool.
But she kissed a girl and things worked out for her anyway.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But just that edge, that rebellious edge, I guess.
Yeah, and you can... I don't know. There's a lot of really good female talent out there that I think once they got this doorway to not being mellow and formulaic and stuff like that, they were allowed to have this extra range of emotion out there on albums. I think it, like you said, it really did open up a lot of doors.
Yeah,
expression wise.
Yeah, it's a massive album. There's no way around it. It's pretty cool that a Canadian has it. She never followed it up really. I don't remember it being as big after, but it's pretty catchy. Like I said, I never owned it. It didn't 1,000% speak to me, but you can't help but tap your foot to almost every track. Hand in My Pocket is my favorite. You Learn's a pretty close favorite. I think it's solid and it stands the test of time.
Yeah.
It's a good album.
And if you were in Canada at the time, it was impossible to avoid. So.
Oh yeah. Actually, not even just Canada. This was massive, right?
Oh yeah, but if you're talking CanCon requirements and stuff that, all of a sudden it's like when Nickelback got huge, right? All of a sudden, every radio in the country was like, "Oh my God, we have a CanCon check mark here that we can play every 60 minutes."
Of the Rolling Stone Top 500, number 327. 500 albums of all time. One list.
Yeah, how many singles did it spawn? There was a number of them, right?
Yeah, six.
Yeah, 33 million sold, 5 Grammys and 9 nominations, 6 singles.
Right.
She was the youngest to win the Grammy too. Did I already say that?
Oh, really? Oh.
No, yeah.
I did not know
the
that.
Grammy at the time, just recently beaten by Guess Who?
The Guess Who? The Guess Who are old as sin, man.
Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Look what they made her do.
Yeah. And the whole Dave Coulier thing, right? Everybody knows from Full House. Cut it out.
Was that ever confirmed? I remember that being a rumor forever, but
really?
I think it's Us Magazine, which I'm sure is a trusted resource, but there's an interview with Dave Coulier. He says, I am pretty sure that actually I can confirm that that's how it's about me. I don't think it's 100%, but I think it's, So the guy from Full House and Alanis were dating, and he screwed up some way or another and got a few songs about him.
And that's extra creepy when you consider her age versus, I assume he had to be in his 30s when they were filming that.
Yeah, maybe too. Well, he'd be definitely a little bit older, but I don't know.
Good for him. Well played.
That's right. It's one of those Hollywood
romances. She moved on from him to
romances.
Ryan Reynolds, so,
True.
Good for her.
But who doesn't move on to Ryan Reynolds? So.
Me.
Well, and she was switch hitting there for a while as well. I believe she...
What?
was bisexual there for a while as well.
She kissed a girl too?
Yeah. I shouldn't, yeah, sure.
Wow.
That's probably, yeah.
I don't think that's on the album.
All right, so let's give some scores, guys. What do you, Alan, start with you. What do you rank this?
All right, I'm going to give this a solid 4 out of 5 for some of the reasons you guys had mentioned before. It's a little rough around the edges, I think, in terms of production value. And not every song on it sort of resonated with me, but the ones it did really, really did. And, it's been, like 23 years or whatever you said, and I still find myself kind of being drawn back to those tracks. Things like All I Really Want, that will forever be on some of my playlists because it's just a banger. And, so solid 4 out of 5. And I would certainly recommend it to any and everybody who has never actually dived into that album.
Yeah, great one. Scott Coates?
I'll give it a solid 4 as well. Not an album I'll probably go back to, not totally my style, but you can't deny in 95 it was the album, right? It totally fit the sound at the time. I'd recommend it. I'll give it a 4 on that because I think anyone studying music, it's a massive album. Again, that the sound fits that time, influenced my taste. Only a 2, worth the hype of 4. So I think, it's a solid album.
Mr. Gregory?
I'll give it a 4.5. I like the ladies when it comes to music. This is kind of like a grungy-ered up version of Veruca Salt, as far as I'm concerned, who've maybe had 1 or 2 more bad relationships. So, I thought vocally she stretches herself out. She's got some rough patches in there, but like you, I think it was intentional. It's very well produced. You've got some A-list talent on the instrumentation. The lyrics are really solid. Highly recommend it to anyone. Happy Canada 150.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for myself, I mean, with the hype, I'm going to give it a 4. Influence, I'm a 3. I think at that time I realized I was a big grunge guy. There was a lot competing for my time and I remember I'm like, oh, this is a good album, but it's like all these waitresses are mad at me. What I recommend, I'll give it a solid 5. I think you should listen to it, but I think I'm overall for fantastic album. I think good representation from Canada, and I just thought it really well done. Really well done.
Cool.
Yeah. Any parting notes, Alan, since it's your pick?
I apologize for being a little late to the meetup, but I'm glad to hear you guys all enjoy the album to a relative extent. So
cool.
Looking forward to seeing. I think Scott's picking next.
The pick's already in.
I just saw it.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm assuming you're going to keep that on the DL till.
I don't know. It's technically the month. I could give an early reveal. All right, we cannot reveal. Never reveal.
Keep the people coming back. Yeah.
Oh, I have to go to the website now?
I know, right?
Well, whenever I get it up, give me a day or 2.
Yeah, you got to go to the website.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I've never heard the album. I've heard some of the songs, but I've never heard the song.
I'd only heard one song, which is the one that I mentioned there off the album. I was surprised. So
okay, well, after we record, you got to tell us what it is so I can start listening to it today.
All right. So once we shut down the presses, I'll give the reveal to you guys.
Somebody take us out of here.
I'm going to take us out of here. So thanks for listening. A new pick is up for September 27th. Thanks, Alan, for picking this one, taking us back to our days, I think, where we're all dating and felt a little fearful when we heard the angry angst of this woman named Alanis. But good listen and enjoy our pick for September.